Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. Look, today we are skipping the usual preamble and diving straight into a high-energy, cinematic breakdown of one of the most talked about physical transformations in modern television. We're talking about Alan Ritchson's absolute evolution into Jack Reacher. This right here is the ultimate Hollywood blueprint. We're going to look at exactly how a human body is physically engineered to become a walking, breathing, cinematic visual effect. So, let's break down exactly how this level of sheer physical dominance is actually achieved.
I mean, it's the exact question everyone's been asking, right? How on earth did Alan Ritchson get this big to play Jack Reacher? We're talking about a guy who was already naturally athletic, for sure. But to step into the shoes of Lee Child's iconic character, he couldn't just be in good shape. He had to build a physique that absolutely fills the cinematic frame and just dominates the screen. He literally needed to look like a guy who could stop a speeding truck with his bare hands.
When he steps into that frame, the very first word that hits you, powerful. Second, he had to be massive. Honestly, the sheer scale of the muscle added to his frame is visually staggering.
And above all else, intimidating. That is the ultimate goal of the Reacher physique. It isn't just about looking good for the cameras. It's about projecting a visual presence that commands every single room he walks into. But how do you actually build that? Let's break down the exact science of how he got there.
Okay, let's really dive into this. To become Reacher, Ritchson had to develop massive shoulders, a significantly bigger chest, a ridiculously thick back, powerful arms, large tree trunk legs, and he had to do all of that while maintaining a remarkably low body fat percentage. And listen, this wasn't some overnight Hollywood camera trick or CGI. Gaining this specific, highly functional amount of overall muscle, it requires months and years of consistent, unyielding discipline. It is a grueling journey of resistance training, pinpoint nutrition, and recovery.
Which brings us to the absolute foundation of this blueprint. Pillar 1, the training protocol. To build a physique that looks like it was carved out of granite specifically for the camera lens, you can't just casually hit the gym a couple of days a week. It demands a brutal, calculated combination of heavy compound movements mixed with classic, high-volume bodybuilding exercises. If you want Reach's powerful legs, you're looking at heavy squats and lunges. Deadlifts and Romanian deadlifts, those are for developing that massive posterior chain, the hamstrings, glutes, and lower back. Bench and dumbbell presses are building out the chest, front shoulders, and triceps. And those iconic pull-ups and barbell rows, that is exactly what builds the wide, thick back that contributes so heavily to his imposing, screen-filling appearance. Finally, overhead presses and lateral raises create those broad shoulders, capped off with curls and extensions for arm size. It is a complete mechanical teardown and rebuild of the human body.
So the real secret sauce here is this concept, progressive overload. Ritcherson's training wasn't just mindless lifting, it was completely steeped in this core scientific principle. Progressive overload basically means you are gradually, systematically increasing the training difficulty over time. That could be adding more weight to the bar, increasing your reps, or even just slowing down the movement, all while maintaining strict, proper form. Your muscles simply won't grow unless you give them a reason to, and forcing them to adapt to heavier and heavier loads is literally the only biological way to trigger that massive hypertrophy.
But here's the cinematic twist, right? Reacher isn't some bodybuilder posing on a stage, he's a highly trained military investigator who brawls. So the true X factor here is functional athleticism. Ritchson couldn't just look big and stiff on camera, he had to move lightning fast, sprint, and hit incredibly hard for those demanding action sequences. His prep integrated raw strength with high-level conditioning and crucial mobility work, ensuring he was every bit as dangerous as he looked.
Moving right along to Pillar 2, the muscle-building diet.
Because here's the truth, tearing your muscles down with those punishing workouts means absolutely nothing without the premium fuel to build them back up. Training is just the spark. Nutrition is the literal building block of the physique. What's incredible here is the sheer simplicity of it all. We aren't looking at magical, unconfirmed calorie targets, secret supplements, or bizarre Hollywood crash diets. We're looking at incredibly clean, whole foods. We're talking eggs, chicken, lean beef, fish, rice, potatoes, oats, a mountain of vegetables and fruits, and plenty of water. Gaining significant high-quality muscle requires your nutrition to provide enough raw energy and protein to actually support massive growth. Eating at this volume, which is often upwards of 4,000 clean calories a day, is essentially a full-time job. Try eating 3 massive chicken breasts and a mixing bowl of rice for dinner, and you'll quickly realize the diet is way harder than the workout.
Let's break down the actual science of that diet logically with the macronutrient triangle. Every single element here plays a non-negotiable role in its transformation. Step 1 is protein. These are your literal building blocks for the muscle tissue. Without enough protein, you don't recover and you certainly don't grow. Step 2 is carbohydrates. This is the highly accessible energy required to fuel those brutal, heavy training sessions we talked about in Pillar 1. And Step 3 is healthy fats, absolutely essential for hormone regulation and supporting overall bodily health while it's under extreme stress. It's just a perfectly balanced triad for elite human performance.
Which leads us perfectly into the final, and honestly the most completely overlooked piece of the massive hypertrophy equation, Pillar 3, recovery.
Now there is a really stark biological contrast you have to understand here. The workout, that's the tearing down phase, actively damaging muscle fibers and creating micro tears when you lift heavy weights. Recovery is the building up phase, and I need to be perfectly clear about this biological fact. Muscle absolutely does not grow in the gym. It grows when you are resting. If you don't respect the building up phase, all that intense effort you put into the tearing down phase is just a complete waste of time.
These recovery essentials are totally non-negotiable. We're talking about high-quality sleep, dedicated rest periods between your workouts, constant hydration, hitting those nutritional markers we just discussed, and effectively managing stress. Plus, the magic ingredient that ties it all together: consistency. Repeatedly training hard without these essentials will actually hurt your performance, lead to injury, and completely halt your progress. Mastering your sleep and stress management is literally just as important as lifting those heavy weights if you want to build a Reacher-sized physique.
So, when we pull this entire premium blueprint together, it's clear Alan Ritchson didn't become Reacher-sized by accident. It comes down to a cinematic level of dedication, summarized in 3 unyielding commands. First, train hard.
Second, eat smart.
And, finally, recover. That right there is the Hollywood blueprint. His transformation required consistent training, smart nutrition, deliberate recovery, ironclad discipline, and years of absolute dedication. There are no shortcuts to this physique, just pure, relentless effort.
You've seen the blueprint. You now know the exact mechanics of how a naturally athletic guy built a cinematic, massive, screen-dominating physical presence. The science is laid out right in front of you. So, I gotta ask, are you ready to take these pillars, the training, the diet, the recovery, and build your strongest version? Thanks for hanging out with me on this Explainer Focused Learners. Take these principles, apply them to your own life, and I'll see you next time.